Welcome to Special Guest Thursdays, where real voices bring real stories to life. This ain't just an interview. This is a spotlight on those making moves. Different paths, different struggles, different wins. But one thing in common, they showed up and leveled up. We're sitting down with leaders, creators, and game changers to talk pressure, purpose, and the mindset behind the grind. No scripts, no filters, just real. Because every guest brings gems, and every story brings power. This is the Final Boss Podcast, and this is Special Guest Thursdays. Tap in and tune up.
Welcome. It is Special Guest Thursdays. Special Guest Thursdays right here on the Final Boss Podcast. Man, I got a great show for you tonight. I have a great show for you every single night. We're on 5 times a week. 5 times a week, man. 5 times a week. 9 p.m. live. 9 p.m. live. 5 times a week. We right here, right? And thank you for joining us. To my smarts, to my motivators, to my warriors, to my final bosses, you are the sovereign and you are here. It is Special Guest Thursdays. And guess what, people? Listen, to each and every single one of you, no matter where you're watching, if you're watching from Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, right? Where else? StreamYard. Right? Thank you for joining us. And to all of you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And welcome to the Final Boss Podcast. Right? Little do you know, man, I'm going to put this out there. I've been undergoing a legal battle with another corporation in regards our trademark, right? Right now, the score is 1-0. They're up 1, but we shall see what happens. We shall see what's happened. The score is 1-0, right? The score is 1-0, but I'm not out of the race yet. I'm not out of the race yet, but they are a $4.3 billion company. So we're going to see what happens. So listen, tonight's episode, right? If you haven't already, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, right? Like, share, subscribe. But not only that, man, check out our website at thefinalbosspodcast.com. One word, thefinalbosspodcast.com. One word. Shoot us an email. You know, I haven't told you guys to shoot us an email in a while, but man, shoot us an email at info@thefinalbosspodcast.com. That's INFO at thefinalbosspodcast.com. And if you haven't gotten your copy of Go Time, All Aboard the Fired Up Train, you see I'm surrounded by this energy right here, right? It's right behind me. Go pick up your copy of Go Time, All Aboard the Fired Up Train. This is the first book in a series. It's the first book in the book. It's a series, man. Listen, book 2 comes out in July. Book 2 comes out in July, and you're going to want to have book 1 when book 2 drops, right? Not saying you won't understand or have the comprehension level to understand what's in book 2, but it's a series, right? And they go with each other, right? You read book 1, and then you progress to book 2, right? That's how it works. That's how it works, right? So, tonight's show. We get right into it, man. Tonight's show is episode 220. And I know people are asking, I've been seeing people ask me online, like, man, the greatest lie ever told? What could that be? What could it be? And we're going to get into it, man. So before, I have to give you this disclaimer. My guest, let me get rid of these banners first. Let me get rid of these banners, right? Banners are gone. Oh, it looks like I'm too close. Let me take care of it. There we go. All right. Look, my guest had a family emergency. His grandmother passed. Shout out to you, Charlie Mike. You know who you are. I hope you see this episode, man. I'm giving you a shout out. I'm not going to put your name out there, man, because people are a little wacko, so and weird. But Charlie Mike, shout out to you. Condolences and prayers and blessings to you and your loved ones, man. Shout out to you. I'll see you again when you're ready to get on the show, man. I'm gonna be right here. But yeah, we had a great show planned for you guys tonight, but his grandmother passed, so it's just me, right? So let's get into it. So tonight is just me and the truth, right? Me and the truth, and me giving you the truth. No filter, no conversation partner, just plain old final boss, right? You guys have probably heard of the Emerald tablets. I'm quite sure some of you have. If you haven't, go Google the Emerald tablets, right? And there's one question that dismantles everything most people were taught to believe when it comes to the Emerald tablets, right? The greatest lie ever told was not told by a villain. It was told by your religion, your self-help people, right? Your self-help books, your motivational heroes, and the culture that practically raised you. And most of you are still living inside of that bubble right now. Here, it's something for you to think about. Everyone quotes as above, so below. But almost nobody reads the next sentence. That omission is not an accident. That omission is the lie, right? That is the lie. So, before we get into the show, let's talk about the brass tacks of the evening, right? Let's talk about the brass tacks. And here it is. That which is below is like that which is above, for the performance of the miracles of the one. That comes direct from the Emerald Tablet, Hermes Trismegistus, right? The miracles are not up there. The miracles are performed down here, right? In the body, in the grief, in the specific texture of your actual human existence. That concept changes everything, right? That concept changes everything. So, as I said, Charlie Mike had a family emergency. And I respect that, man. Family comes first, right? So, no duality debating or conversation tonight. It's just me. And honestly, that might even be more dangerous. Because there is something about a solo night that strips everything down. No back and forth, right? No natural conversation to hide inside. No moment where I hand it off and collect any thoughts. Just me and the mic. Me, the mic in this room. And you, right? And you. And whatever I've been carrying around all week that needs to come out. And this is definitely one of those things. And I've been carrying this, right? And I've been sitting with a question, this very question all week. It's not a new question. It's an old one. One of the questions that hides in plain sight so long that most people stop seeing it. You know, it's one of those things, man, where people keep regurgitating the same thing over and over again, but they miss the entire thing, right? And the rest of it completes it. It's one of those questions that the moment you actually ask it and you ask it out loud in the right way, something inside you shifts and cannot shift back. And I want to talk about the greatest lie ever told, right? Not a political lie, not a corporate lie, not a corporate cover up, not a conspiracy, but it's something that's a little bit older. Something so embedded in the architecture of how you think, how you pray, how you grind, how you measure yourself. And most of you won't even recognize it as a lie when I name it. And you will probably sit up there and defend it, because that is what we do, right? That's what we do with lies that raised us, that we're comfortable with, that protected us, right? And we protected them. We build our identity around these lies. We call them wisdom and tradition and faith and ambition. And we pass them to our children like they are the greatest gifts. But tonight, I'm naming it, all of it, right? Where I came from, who it served, what it cost you, and what the actual truth looks like when you stand in it for the first time. You've been living inside this thing your entire life, your whole life, right? And tonight we're going to crack it open. This is the Final Boss Podcast. Welcome all of you who are new to the community, who are new to the family, who's new to this nation, right? This is season 4 of the Rebirth, episode number 220. I am the Final Boss, and tonight I am solo. So let's get into it. So every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a conversation with a special guest. But tonight, again, like last week, I'm by myself, which is cool, right? And we talk with the voices that expand the conversation. We talk to scientists, entrepreneurs, veterans, thought leaders, people who have been through something real and came back with something worth saying. Tonight, the chair across from me is empty. And that empty chair is going to say more than most guests ever do. Because what I'm about to share does not need a cosigner. It does not need a conversation partner to validate it or push back on it, or even soften it up, right? It needs to stand alone in the room and let you, the people, right? The smarts, the motivators, the warriors, the final bosses, the sovereign, let you decide what to do with it. That is the only way this particular truth lands the way it needs to land, right? And if you are new here, welcome to the family, welcome to the community, welcome to the nation. This is not a podcast where we talk at you. This is a conversation, a community, a network built around the idea that the people who survive the hardest things, who built from nothing, who chose to grow when everything around them says shrink. Those people deserve a table, a real one, not a highlight reel. We have 4 communities at the Final Boss Network, and I need you to know which one you are in tonight, because this episode speaks to all 4 of you differently, right? To my smarts, you are the thinkers, the researchers, the ones who came here for the intellectual death and stayed because the death was real. Tonight's episode is going to challenge how you process knowledge itself. So stay with me, right? Stay with me. And to my final bosses, you are the builders, the ones in the arena, the entrepreneurs, the executors, the executives, the people who are actively constructing something and refusing to stop. Tonight is going to reframe where your power actually comes from. And you need this one, right? And to my motivators, you are the fuel. The ones who show up every single day, whether the feeling is there or not. The ones who push others forward even when they themselves are tired. Tonight, I'm going to ask you to look at what you've been calling negative and see it differently, right? And to my warriors, you know who you are. You've been to places most people only read about. You have carried weight that does not come off just because you came home. Tonight has a dedicated conversation for you, and I need you to stay in it. This is season 4 of the Rebirth. We are not coming back the same after tonight. We are returning to what was comfortable and familiar or safe. The rebirth demands that you go through something that you have been avoiding. And tonight, we're going to name exactly what that something is. This episode is the lens. Everything else in the season points back to tonight. So let's go ready and get ready to build, right? Let's do that. But before we do that, let's get a commercial break. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Stay with me. He's back. Thank you for that. That was a good little small commercial break. Thank you for staying with us, right? And look, I want to tell you exactly how this episode started because the origin of it matters. Listen, I was on the phone with some friends this week, right? Some people. Let's just call them people, not our friends, right? I maybe have a handful of friends that I can actually call friends, man. If that, right? Most of them are family. But let me digress. I was on the phone this week, right? I talked to some people, but then I was also doom scrolling, right? I do that every now and again, like we all do, right? And I do it quite less than I used to because the algorithm knows too much about what we keep locked in. And I refuse to be a passive consumer of anyone's content strategy, right? But I was scrolling and something stopped me, right? Something stopped me. A real short video, a creator breaking down the emerald tablets. Nothing flashy, just text on a screen and a voice that clearly knew what it was talking about. And the opening line hit me like a door that was slamming. Everyone quotes the emerald tablet as above, so below, right? That line, that famous line that every spiritual teacher, every self help author, every consciousness researcher, every motivated speaker with a black turtleneck on and a whiteboard throws around like currency, right? As above, so below. Mirror universe. The cosmos reflected in that individual. The microcosm and the macrocosm, which is a beautiful concept, ancient wisdom, and everybody loved it. And the creator said, almost no one reads the next sentence. Full stop. Full stop, right? The next sentence, right? I never read it. But then when I did, it changed everything, right? Full stop. Red flag, right? Red flag on the play. And here's the next sentence. I'm going to read it slow because every word in it is doing something. It's action, right? That, sorry about that, which is below is like, I said I'm going to read it slow, right? Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. All right. Sound went out. Whew, man. Oh man, these live shows, I tell you. Where was I? Oh, that which is below is like that which is above, for the performance of the miracles of the one. Sit with that for a second. Not the reflection, not the illustration, not the symbolic representation, the performance. Active tense, happening tense. The miracle is not being described by the below. The miracle is being enacted in the below. The below is not a copy of something that happens above. The below is where it happens, right? That one word, performance, changed the entire meaning of the most quoted line in Hermetic philosophy. And then the real went further. It said the miracles are performed in the full embodied descent unto the body, into the material life, into the specific texture of an actual human existence with its grief and its reoccurring patterns and its 3 a.m. movements, 3 a.m. moments, right? Where everything feels like it is collapsing. I want you to hear me, right? I want you to hear what this is saying. The miracle is not your best day. The miracle is not your highlight reel. The miracle is not the moment you finally made it out of the hardest season. The miracle is performed inside of the hardest season. Inside the body that is tired, inside the life that is complicated, inside the 3 a.m. that would not let you sleep. That is not poetic language, people. That is a precise philosophical claim about where power operates, right? After that, I put my phone down, right? Not because I was done watching, but because I needed a moment with what I had just heard, because I recognized it, not as new information, but as the thing I've been trying to say in different language across 3 seasons of the podcast and 3 books and 2 decades of leadership and 2 combat deployments. I recognized it in a way you recognize someone's face in a crowd. And I never knew. I never knew. And I'm not a stranger. Right? I'm not a stranger to this. I'm someone who has been speaking this for some time now, right? And you can't treat me like a stranger. You know I'm not a stranger. You see me as someone you've been looking for. Right? I'm like the oracle. The greatest lie ever told is the one that runs directly against that sentence, right? The lie that says that the way to power, to God, to your highest self, to your best version, to your miracle is up. Ascend, transcend, rise above, get out of the body, get out of the mess, get out of the above the emotion, right? Get above the circumstance, get above the below. But the Emerald Tablet says the opposite. Who knew? The miracle is not above you. The miracle is performed through you, down here in the actual human life and a human existence. You've been trying to escape. You've been trying to escape it, but it's right here, right? And that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, man. Right? So let me name it clean so nobody gets lost in the philosophy, right? The greatest lie ever told is this. Your power lives somewhere other than where you are right now. That is the whole lie. 6 words. Every other version of it It's just that sentence wearing a different costume, right? Now, let me walk you through the costumes so you can recognize them in your own life, right? Costume number one, the afterlife frame. Heaven is the place you go after the life ends. The real reward, the real peace, the real arrival that comes later. Not here, not now, not in this body, in this struggle, in this specific human life with all its difficulty. Later, after, above. The implication is clear. The life is waiting for you, right? That life is a waiting room and is waiting for you. But the real thing is somewhere else, right? And then costume number two, the self-help frame. Your highest self is who you become after you fix all the problems, after you implement your morning routine, read the right books, build the discipline, rewire the subconscious, heal the trauma, optimize the habits. The best version of you is waiting. It exists in the future. You are not it yet. You aren't it, right? You are not it. So keep ascending, right? And then costume number three. This is the spiritual purity frame, right? God is accessible once you are clean enough, evolved enough, healed enough, disciplined enough. The divine is not in the mess of your actual life. The divine is in the elevated, purified, disciplined version of your life that you are still working toward, right? And then costume number four, the achievement frame. Success is the destination at the top of the mountain. That's me, right? The arrival point where things finally make sense, where the sacrifice pays off, where you can exhale, keep climbing, right? You are not there yet. The good part is above where you currently stand. And then there's costume number five, the self-improvement timeline. The best version of you exists once you lose the weight, break the habit, build the business, get the degree, finish the program, launch the thing, have the difficult conversation, and once you become who you're supposed to be, then the real life begins. All five of those are the same lie, same destination. Your power is not here. It is somewhere else. And sometime else. And some version of you else, right? And here's what it is. Here's what the lie actually does to a human being, right? It creates a permanent dissatisfaction as a feature, not a bug, right? If your power is always located in the future version of yourself, then you are always insufficient right now. Always one more achievement away from deserving what you already have. Always one more level away from the being allowed to live the rest of its life in the life you are already living or actually living, right? That is not motivation. That is a trap with a motivational quote on it, right? The Emerald Tablets is not a new age concept. And I want to be clear, right? I want to be clear about this because someone in the audience is going to want to dismiss it. It's mysticism. Hermes Trismegistus, it's all mysticism. The Thrace, the Great, right? This is one of the oldest philosophical texts that's been recorded in human history. This predates pre-Christian, pre-modern, right? The text shaped Gnostic thought, early Islamic philosophy, Renaissance science, and the entire ecumenical tradition in Europe, right? It influenced Neoplatonist thinkers, right? Paracelsus, right? Bruno, an early scientific revolution. Even Isaac Newton translated it, right? Let that land for a second. Isaac Newton, the man who gave us calculus and the laws of motion, the father of classical mechanics. He translated the Emerald Tablet. He took it seriously enough to do the scholarly work of rendering it from Latin to English in his own hand. The manuscript still exists at King's College, Cambridge. If Newton thought it was worth his time, the least thing you can do is read the entire thing, the whole thing, right? And the whole thing says the miracles happen in the below. 2,000 years of religion, culture, and self-help have been pointing you upward, right? That is not an accident. That is a control mechanism. And tonight, I'm taking it apart. I'm taking it all apart. So stay with me. Don't go anywhere. Stay with me, right? Stay with me. I want to be precise here, right? Because I know this audience, and I know some of you just tensed up, right? I can see it. I can feel it, right? I'm the architect of insight. Of course I can see it, right? I know you're tensed up. You're like, what is he talking about, right? When somebody says they're about to critique religion and the defense reflex kicks in, I understand that reflex. I have it too, right? So let me be clear before I go anywhere near this, right? I'm not attacking faith. I would never do that. I have faith, trust me. Deep faith, personal faith, right? That is non-negotiable and not on the table for debate tonight. I walked out of the Pentagon on 9/11 with smoke behind me and the bodies around me, right? And the first thing I grabbed was not a strategy. It was my faith. I deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq, and the faith went with me every step of the way. I am not anti-religion. I am anti-weaponization. There's a difference, and it matters, right? Here's what happened historically across multiple traditions. A particular interpretation of the relationship between God and human took hold and spread. The interpretation looked like that this physical world is fallen, corrupted, beneath the divine. But God created it, right? The body is a prison for the soul. Desire is dangerous. Emotion is weakness, right? Material existence is the problem, and spiritual transcendence is the solution. Suffer now in the body, receive the reward above. Endure the below, earn the above, right? That framework by itself is a theological position. People can hold it in good faith, and many do. You hear it, you see it, right? But that framework in the hands of institutions that needed stability, compliance, and manageable populations became something else entirely, right? Suffer now. God sees it. Your reward is above. That sentence, repeated across centuries from positions of authority, kept entire populations from demanding dignity in the below, from demanding justice in the below, from organizing power in the below, from saying out loud, the conditions of the material life matter and I deserve better. Why fight for the below when the below is supposed to be temporary? Why demand change in a world that is falling and passing away? Why build power in a system that is corrupt by nature? Just endure it. Stay humble. The reward is coming, not here, but above. Listen, that is a control mechanism. That is a control mechanism wearing the clothes of salvation. And I want to be careful here, right? Because I'm not saying every religious leader knew they were doing this. Most of them believe the message sincerely. The lie does not need malicious actors to function. It just needs repetition and instructional authority and the human tendency to accept what we're taught before we were even old enough to question it. But the mystics knew, right? The tradition inside almost every major religion that went deeper than the institutional layer kept arriving in the same place. The Gnostics knew. The Hermetics knew. The Sufi poets knew. The Christian mystics knew. The Kabbalists knew. The contemplative traditions inside Buddhism and Hinduism knew. Every wisdom tradition that survived outside of or beneath the institutional control kept saying the same thing in a different language. The divine is not above the human experience. The divine is expressed through the human experience. Rumi said it in the 13th century. The wound is where the light centers and enters, not above the wound, through it, inside it, at the exact point of the rupture. God does not show up after you transcend your grief. God shows up inside the grief, at the bottom of it, in the specific texture of the thing you've been trying to rise above. The miracle is not waiting on the other side of the 3 a.m. The miracle is performed at 3 a.m. in the dark, in the not knowing, in the body that hurts, and in the mind that will not quiet, and the life that has not yet been resolved. That reframe alone is worth the price of the whole conversation tonight, right? The whole conversation. Now, let me talk to my smarts and my final bosses directly, because what I'm about to say lives closest to home for both of you, right? Because a lot of people in the audience made a clean break from organizational religions at some point. Maybe you questioned it when you were young. Maybe a contradiction finally got too big to hold. Maybe you walked away from the church or the mosque or the temple and felt free for the first time. And you replaced that Sunday service with self-help books and self-help shelves, right? You replace the sermon with the podcast. You replace the prayer with the morning routine and the journaling and the visualization and the personal development system. And you thought you left the lie behind, but you didn't. You didn't. You just bought the premium version, a better design, better branding, same architecture. The self-help industry is a multi-billion-dollar-a-year machine, and it runs on one core message delivered in 1,000 different packages. You are not enough yet. But if you consume this content, attend this event, implement this framework, hire this coach, you will ascend to the next level. The best version of you is waiting up there, right? After the transformation, you keep going. After the transformation, you keep climbing. After the transformation, you keep optimizing, right? Same lie, better production value, right? Look at the language, man. Look at the language. Look at the vision boards. What direction do you point them? Up. Law of attraction. What are you raising? Your vibration. Higher self. The word higher is right there in the name. The frequency work, the elevation, right? The elevation of your state. Rising above limiting beliefs. Transcending your old identity and leveling up. The entire vocabulary of modern personal development is built on a vertical metaphor pointing in one direction. And these are not bad people selling these things. Some of the most sincere, genuine, well-meaning human beings are the people I'm speaking of. Some of the people I've encountered, right? I have friends in this space. I respect what many of them do, right? And I have books on the shelf. I wrote books that live in this category. And I'm not speaking from outside the room. throwing rocks. I'm speaking from inside of it with a clear conscience because I can see the gap. The gap is this. Most personal development content teaches you to manage your way out of your human experience rather than move through it. The goal is to get to a place where the difficulty does not affect you anymore, where you are disciplined enough, evolved enough, detached enough that the below does not pull you or pull at you the way it pulls on everyone else. That is not transformation. That is emotional armor with a motivational quote on it, right? The transformation that actually changes you does not happen because you elevated above your problems. It happens because you went full into them, right? 100%. With your whole self, without the armor, without the exit strategy, without the technique for staying above it. I know this from my own life, not from theory, from the specific moments when I finally stopped trying to perform my way through something and actually sat inside it, right? These were the moments that changed me, not the discipline, not the system, the full descent into the thing I had been managing around. The warrior does not become a warrior by avoiding the battlefield. The warrior does not level up from the safe distance. The warrior becomes who they are by surviving the actual contact with the actual thing that was trying to break them. The below is where you are forged, not observed, not managed, not optimized, forged. Self-help told you to rise above. The Emerald Tablet tells you to descend fully. One of those made you feel productive. The other one actually changed who you are, right? Now, let us go somewhere most podcasters won't go. And I say that a lot, right? I say that a lot. Because the most intimate version of this lie is the one that most nobody names directly, right? You were taught to distrust your body, not just your physical health, but fundamentally, philosophically, spiritually. You were taught that your body is the unreliable part of you, the part that goes and gets you in trouble. Your emotions that lie to you. Your instincts are corrupted by bias or sin or ego or even trauma. Your physical responses are weaknesses in disguise. Your desire is dangerous. Your hunger, your fear, your grief, your anger, your longing, these are forces that need to be managed, suppressed, outpaced, transcended, risen above. And most people spend the majority of their lives in a low-grade area or low-grade war against their own physical existence. They numb it with substances. They medicate it into manageability, right? They outwork it so completely that exhaustion becomes the strategy. They perform the way past it and call the performance strength. They develop elaborate systems for staying in their head and out of their body because the body carries them and they don't have the language for that, right? And all of this happens in service of some imaginative version of themselves. They believe themselves to be clean, controlled, and rational, above the mess of actually being a full human being with a physical body and a physical world that is unpredictable and painful and also magnificent. The version does not exist. That version does not exist. It has never existed in any person who has ever lived on this planet. You are a body having an experience. I'm going to say that again. You are a body having an experience. The consciousness you call you The awareness that is reading these words right now as I speak them is not floating above your biology. It is located in this specific physical vessel, navigating the specific material world with the specific history embedded in its cells. DNA has memory. That is not a limitation that you are overcoming. That is not the equipment you were issued. And you've been fighting it instead of using it. The reel that stopped me said exactly the specific texture of an actual human existence. The grief, the reoccurring patterns, the 3 a.m. The specificity, the specific flavor of your difficulty, the particular shape of what you have survived and what you're still carrying. That is not the problem. You are trying to solve on the way to your real life. That is the material through which every miracle you would ever perform gets enacted. Combat taught me this in ways I could not have learned any other way. You cannot think your way through a firefight. The analytical mind that is so powerful in a conference room is not the asset in that environment. The body is the asset. The body has been processing threat information and calculating survival probabilities and reading the room through senses you don't even have conscious access to. The body knows things the mind has not caught up to yet. And it's not only combat. Every moment of real connection I've ever had with another human being started in this body. The recognition, the knowing in your gut that something is right or something is wrong. The grief that hits you in the chest before the mind has finished processing the news. The joy that comes up before you give yourself permission to feel it. That is not noise. That is signal. When I stopped waging war against my body and started treating it as an intelligence system carrying information, things shifted. Not overnight, not comfortably, but fundamentally, right? The lie told you your humanity is the obstacle. The truth is your humanity is the instrument. The specific, complicated, grieving, desiring, terrified, magnificent, particular humanity of you is the instrument through which the miracle gets performed. Not the sanitized version, not the above the mesh version, but you, right? All you. And I want to take a few minutes specifically with my warriors, right? If you're not a veteran, stay in the conversation because this applies to every kind of battlefield. But if you have worn a uniform and deployed, then I'm talking directly to you, right? 2 deployments, OEF 3, 4 in Afghanistan, OIF, Iraq, and September 11th at the Pentagon, right? 23 years of federal service. I stood in places where the below was not a metaphor or a philosophical concept, where the below was literal, right? Dust and heat and the sound of people you knew and trained with going silent in ways that would never leave you. I can tell you the absolute certainty that nobody in that environment is talking about rising above. Nobody is ascending. Nobody is transcending the weight in a combat zone, right? You are in it completely. The below is only the address that exists. So would you think that veterans who would be the people most comfortable with this concept? That having been forced into the full descent, and they would come home with a natural understanding that the below is where the real work happens. But what I watched happen was this. What happened to me in different ways at different points in that culture, we returned, all right, and we were told the exact opposite. Move on, stay strong. Do not let it define you. Rise above it. Leave it behind. The best thing you can do is get back to normalcy, right? And do it as fast as possible. And people tried. The ones who white knuckled their way through it, the ones who performed the recovery instead of living it, the ones who showed up to every family event and every word function and every obligation looking like they were fine because fine was what was expected. Those are the people who are still fighting a war decades after the theater closed. The war just moved inside against themselves. The warriors who actually made it back, not just physically present, but actually themselves did something different. They went through it, not around it, not past it, but they went through it. They found the people in the spaces where the below was allowed to exist without being fixed or managed or rushed. They sat with the 3 a.m. They felt the weight of what they carried without pretending it was not there. They gave the below its full due. And on the other side of that descent, something was built that could have not been built any other way, right? Not a recovered version of who they were before, but something new, something that only exists because the below was fully inhabited. The Emerald Tablet has been descending that process and the performance of the miracle for thousands of years. The mystics, the philosophers, the alchemists, all encoded the same truth. You do not discover gold by avoiding the fire. You discover it by going through the fire completely. I just had to live it before I could name it, right? If you're a warrior in the audience and who's been trying to ascend past your experience, who's been told by culture or family or your own pride that the right move is to rise above what you survived, then this is for you. This is your episode. The miracle is not, and I want you to hear me well, right? Hear me well. The miracle is not waiting above. The miracle is not waiting above. It's not waiting above what you went through. It is embedded inside you, right? Your specific experience of the blow is not the wound you are managing. It is the source of the particular power you carry that nobody else has. The below is sacred ground for all of us, but especially for you, because you earned every inch of it, right? Now, I want to put this directly inside the architecture of season 4 because this is the rebirth, and tonight the word is not a title. It is a thesis. You cannot be reborn from above. Let that sit before I explain it. Let the weight of it land first. You heard what I said? Rebirth is a biological metaphor, and it is exact in ways that most people never slow down to. They never slow down to examine it, right? Think about it. To be born, you descend. The womb is not above. The passage is not elevation. The process of birth is a downward movement, a contraction, the pressure that builds until it becomes unbearable, a darkness that precedes the light. Every single organism that has ever been born on this planet entered the world by moving downward through something that was trying to press it into shape. And then we spend the rest of our lives trying to escape the very process that made us. The lie told you the rebirth happens when you fully achieve enough, elevate enough, become enough. When you have done sufficient inner work, shadow work, accumulated sufficient wisdom, built sufficient discipline, built sufficient materialism, right? When you have fully earned the right to ascend to the next version of yourself. The rebirth is the reward at the top of the climb. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that is not the rebirth. That, my friends, is an achievement. An achievement, right? An achievement and rebirth are not the same category of things. So let me draw the line between them clearly, because the distinction is this whole episode, right? Achievement changes circumstances. You get the degree, the contract, the platform, the recognition, the number in the account. The external landscape of your life shifts. Achievement is real and it matters, and I'm not maintaining it, right? But achievement can happen without anything fundamentally changing inside the person who achieved it. And most people, if they're honest with themselves in the quiet moments, know this: they hit the goal, they got the thing, and they were still themselves, still carrying what they were carrying before, still running the same patterns, still haunted by the same 3 a.m. The circumstances changed. The person did not. That is not rebirth. The rebirth requires descent. It requires you to go fully into what you've been avoiding, not go around it, right? But around it with a better strategy. Not past it, but not past it with a more disciplined routine. The grief you acknowledge intellectually, but never actually sat inside, the identity you built around a version of yourself that no longer fits, but is still the costume you reach for every morning. The version of you that you have outgrown, but keep protecting because letting it go feels like dying. The 3 a.m. you have filled with activity and productivity and noise because the silence in it carries something you are not ready to face. That material, that specific, uncomfortable, deeply personal material is the womb. That is where the rebirth happens, not after you clear it, but inside it. You cannot be reborn by escaping the womb. You have to go through the compression, the pressure, the darkness, the moment when everything in you says this is not working. And there is no way that the old version is gone and the new version has not arrived yet. That space in between, that is the rebirth. And right there, right there, not on the other side of it, but right there, right? Season 4 is not about the celebration of having arrived. It is about the full descent that makes the arrival real. It is about the compression that precedes the emergence. It is the courage to go into the thing rather than above it. The rebirth happens in the below. The Emerald Tablet encoded that 3,000 years ago. And tonight I'm saying it on my show, right? On my show, on this mic, right? Now, let me put a spin on this. Let me put a doctoral spin on this, because this conversation does not live alone in the philosophical or the spiritual. It lives directly inside the most important technological and scientific debate of our time. The question of what consciousness actually is and where it actually lives. I am currently completing my doctoral work on consciousness sovereignty architecture. I'm host, as you know, Merger Wednesdays, specifically to bridge the gap between the technical dimension of artificial intelligence and the philosophical dimension of what it means to be conscious being, right? And when I look at the field and the cutting edge of consciousness research and AI development, I see the same lie operating, just wearing a lab coat. The dominant assumption inside the most influential AI development frameworks is this: consciousness is what remains when you remove the body. That intelligence, that is true intelligence, is the clean, rational, computational process that operates above the noise of physical experience. The goal of advanced AI is to replicate the mind without the mess, to capture what the human intellect doesn't, or does, while leaving behind what the human body feels, to achieve the above without carrying the below. That is the lie applied to technology. Same architecture, different language. And the most rigorous consciousness researchers, the people doing the actual science rather than the marketing, are discovering is that the consciousness cannot be separated from the embodied experience without losing the thing you were trying to capture. The philosopher Thomas Nagel asked, "What is it like to be a bat?" The point was not about bats. The point was that consciousness is not a function. It is an experience. It is what it is like to be something, and what is it like to be something is always located in the specific body, in a specific environment, navigating specific stakes, experiencing specific loss and specific desires and specific time. You cannot replicate that from above. You cannot abstract it out of the below and still have the real thing. The Emerald Tablet encoded the principle thousands of years before we had the neuroscience to begin to confirm it. Consciousness is the interaction between the above and the below. It is not pure mind floating free of material reality. It is the self in a relationship with an environment, with a body, with time, with the specific states of an actual existence. My dissertation centers on consciousness sovereignty architecture, which is the study of how the consciousness entity, human or artificial, maintain integrity, agency within network systems that are designed to diffuse and redirect sovereign will. And the core finding it, and the thing that keeps surfacing no matter which angle I approach it from, is this: sovereignty is not achieved by rising above the system. It is achieved by being fully present and fully intentional within it. The below is where intelligence improves itself, not the theoretical intelligence that performs well in controlled conditions, the real intelligence that holds together under the weight of actual complexity, actual loss, actual uncertainty. The intelligence is forged in the below. Same for humans, same for AI systems that will eventually matter, right? The AI systems that will change the world are not the ones that transcend human experience. They are the ones that can meaningfully interface with it, that can meet the grief and the pattern and the 3 a.m. with genuine understanding rather than process approximation. You're not most powerful in the abstract. You're most powerful in the full contact with the actual. That is consciousness sovereignty architecture in one sentence. That is also what the Emerald Tablet has been saying for 3,000 years, right? For 3,000 years. And I want to get specific, right? Because the lie does not come in one flavor. It was custom fitted to each and every last one of you. It was delivered in the language that was most credible in the person you were when you first received it. And that means dismantling requires the same exact precision. So let me speak to all 4 pillars of the community at one time, right? Smarts, you're the thinkers, the people who came here with the depth and the will to fact check, right? You, who I respect dearly, I'm going to be exact with you. The version of the lie delivered to you in the academic language, in the higher abstraction, is that the closer to the truth, The more removed from messy lived experience, the more rigorous the thinking, the intellectual that has risen above emotion, above subjectivity, above the personal and the particular. That is the intellectual to be trusted. Data over feeling, theory over testimony, the clean model over the complicated reality. You were trained to distrust your own experience as data, to call it bias, to call it anecdotal, right? To discount that what your body and your history and your specific life know in favor of what a peer-reviewed framework says. I'm not dismissing the rigor. I'm telling you that the most powerful thinking you will ever do happens when you bring the full weight of your specific lived experience into direct contact with that idea. The below is where the intelligence gets tested, refined, and actually proven, not in theory, in application. So let's bring it down, right? So my final bosses, the version of the lie delivered to you called ambition, the next level, the next milestone, the next exit. Keep climbing because the destination is above where you stand and nothing below the destination fully counts. The cost of that framing is something most of you felt, and you've been feeling it, but you just didn't have a name for it, and you couldn't say it out loud. You are perpetually dissatisfied with the ground you're standing on. The businesses you are building right now is never quite the real business yet. The revenue you are doing right now is the baseline before the real number. The person you are right now is the before the picture. The arrival is always one more achievement away. You need to stop ascending past your present. The miracle is not waiting at the next level. The miracle is being performed in the building you are currently in the body that you're able to touch and pinch, right? With the team that you already have, in the season you're already living. You need to own the ground you stand on, right? Own it. And to my motivators and my warriors, listen, don't spend your life trying to transcend. What the below built in you, stand in it, lead from it. The weight is your authority. Stay with me, guys. I'm going to go over a little bit. It's okay. It's okay. I'm going to go over just a little bit, right? So what does the truth actually look like? I know you're asking, right? Because I am not interested in dismantling something without building something better in its place. Deconstructive without construction is just distraction. And that is not what we do in this show. And that's not what I'm doing here tonight, right? The truth is not the opposite of the lie. I need to be precise about this. The truth is not stay in the below forever. Do not grow, do not build, do not achieve, do not aspire to anything beyond where you currently stand. That would just be the lie inverted. Same binary, different pole, right? The truth is a relationship between the above and the below that most people were never taught to navigate. A circuit, a complete circuit, right? As above, so below. But both directions are real. Both directions matter. Both the performance of the miracles happen through the circuit running completely, not just the top half, but both. And most of you have been building your lives off the top half. And here's what that circuit actually looks like in practice, right? You carry that vision from above, right? We're going to call it the calling. The thing you know you're built for, right? The picture of what could exist that does not yet. The lives above, the inspiration, the aspiration, the reaching toward what is not yet real. That is the above doing its work. And then you bring it down and to the body and to the specific human life you are actually living, and to the constraints and the complications and the history and the relationships and the geography of your actual existence. You make contact between the vision and the reality. That contract creates friction. Most people interpret it, most people, right? Most people interpret it as how can I say this? Give me a second. Most people interpret this. I'm stuck. I'm stuck, man. How can I say this? Most people interpret friction. Friction. Yeah. Most people interpret it as friction, as evidence that the very vision, or that they are not ready yet, right? So they go back to that very vision and refine it, or they try to get themselves more prepared. Let's say more elevated, right? More worthy. And they never actually bring the vision into full contact with themselves, with the ground. It's not grounded. The friction is not a signal to retreat. The friction is the forge. The gap between where you are aiming and where you stand is not the problem. The gap is the work. And the work done inside the gap is what builds the specific version of what you can actually carry the vision to its let's say the destination, right? Most people try to skip the forge. They want the vision realized without the material experience of being shaped by the process of realizing it. They want the arrival without the descent. They want the gold without the fire. Where do they do that at? A lot of you do it. A lot of you do it, man. You can't have the gold without the fire. You can't have the diamond without the coal. You can't have the success without the work. It doesn't work like that, right? It doesn't. The sovereign does not operate that way. The sovereign has learned something that cannot be taught in a seminar or encoded in a framework. Every inch of the below that has been fully walked through belongs to them. Every piece of grief, right? Every 3 a.m., right? All of it. Because it was not inherited or purchased or performed. It was earned in the only currency that does not appreciate. And that's their full presence in the actual life that they're living. That is what it means to be a final boss. Not that you escaped your human experience, not that you transcended it or optimized it or performed your way past it, that you went through it, and you went through it completely with your whole self and came out on the other side, not as a better version of who you were before, but as something genuinely new. The above and the below, both together, completing the complete circuit. That is the truth that replaces the lie. And thank you for hearing that message. All right. Thank you for hearing that message, right? And, you know, before I go into the final word, I want to close the loop with the community, because that is what this platform is built for. Not a broadcast, not a conversation, but something, even on a special guest Thursdays, even when I'm solo, right? This is still a conversation. You are just the one on the other side of it, right? You're on the other side of this mic, right? So let me ask you something directly, right? And drop it in the comments tonight. Not for sympathy. I'm not asking for you, your pain story. I'm asking for your inventory. What is the specific thing in your life right now that you have been trying to get past instead of going through? What is the below that you've been spending real energy avoiding? What is the reoccurring patterns you keep hopping or hoping will stop showing up so you don't have to go into it? Name it in the chat. Just name it, right? Just naming it is enough. You don't have to explain it, justify it, add context. Just name it, right? Put it in the comments and let the naming itself be the first act of descending into it rather than getting away from it. Because the community does not judge the below. The community has been in it this whole time from the beginning. That is actually what separates this audience from most audiences. You are not here for the highlight reel. You were never here for the performance. You are here because something in the content hit something real in your life and you recognize the texture of it. Every warrior in the audience who carried something from something home from a place most people would never go. Every final boss who hit the wall that nobody posts about publicly. The one that comes after the win, not before it. The one that is quieter and more disorienting than any failure you have ever experienced. Every motivator who had the days when the fuel just was not there and had to show up anyway. Not because they felt it, but because they made a commitment and that commitment was worth more than the feeling. Every smart who knows with absolute certainty that being the smartest person in the room does not protect you from being human in the middle of the night. All of us, the sovereign and the below, in the same form, right now. That is not a problem that needs to be solving. That is the work, the actual work. The below is the space between you, where you are and where you're going. The below is the address of the work itself. If tonight connected with you, I want you to share this episode, not because I need the metrics, not because the algorithm rewards it, but because you know someone right now who's been running from the below, who's been trying to ascend past something they actually need to go through, who has been sold the lie in whatever language was most credible to them and has been faithfully living inside it, wondering why the arrival keeps moving further away. Tag them, right? Like, share, subscribe. Send it to them, right? Not with a caption about what they should take from it. Just send it and let the message find where it's supposed to land, right? That is the whole point of this platform, not a broadcast. To connect the message to the person who needed it before they know they needed it. This is what the Final Boss Network is for. Smarts, final bosses, motivators, warriors, they're all in every Thursday, 9 p.m. live. You know where to find us, right? Now, let me end this where I started with the Emerald Tablets, right? And let me take this time to do it right, because this is the close of another solo episode on what I believe is one of the most important subjects I've addressed in 4 seasons of this show. As above, so below. 4 words. That is all most people know. 4 words that become a catchphrase, a tattoo, an aesthetic, a brand. 4 words that launched 1,000 spiritual influencer accounts and ended up on tote bags and coffee mugs. 4 words that have been repeated so many times in so many contexts that they have lost the specific weight they were meant to carry. The top half of the sentence made people famous. The entire movement's built around it. entire industries, the mirror universe, the macrocosm and the microcosm. The cosmos reflected in the individual reflecting the cosmos. It is a beautiful idea and it is true. The above and the below are in relationship. They mirror each other. What happens in the one is reflected in the other. But that is only the first half of the operating principle, right? The second sentence, the one nobody quotes, the one that does not fit on a tote bag, the one that requires you to slow down and actually think about what it is saying. That which is below is like that which is above for the performance of the miracles of the one. Performance. That word is the whole thing. Not reflection, not symbolism, not representation. Performance. The miracle is not demonstrated in the below, like a theorem being illustrated on a blackboard. The miracle is enacted in the below, performed, made real, brought into an actual existence. The below is not the audience for something happening above. The below is the stage. The below is where it happens. And what and who is performing the miracle? That is you. That would be you, my friends, right? In the specific body you are in the specific life you are living, with the specific grief you are carrying, in the specific desire you are afraid to name, in the specific pattern you are still in the middle of, in the Pacific 3 a.m. that keeps finding you, right? That is the stage. That is the performance. That is where the miracle of the one gets enacted, right? Not after you fix the stage, not after you clean up the performance space, not after you become the version of yourself who has resolved the complications and processed the grief and the broken pattern and made it through the 3 a.m. in the morning. Right? No. Now, you're here in the middle of it, going through it, right? This season of Rebirth is not a marketing concept. It is not a theme I picked up because it sounded inspiring. It is the precise description of the only process by which something genuinely new can come into existence into the human life. You cannot be reborn by ascending past what you were. You can only be reborn by descending fully into it, all the way to the bottom of it, right? Far enough into it that the old version of you cannot survive the compression. Then finding what remains when it doesn't. What remains is not the better version of who you were before. What remains is something that could not have existed before the descent. That is the rebirth, not the glow on the other side, the going through, the full going through, without the exit strategy, without the performance of surviving it, the actual thing. And I want to say something directly to whoever in the audience tonight, whoever has been trying to rise above something for the longest time, right? Maybe years even, right? Maybe your entire adult life, you've been going through this and trying to rise above it, right? And you've gotten good at it. You've developed the real skill at the ascent. You can stay above it for as long as it stretches. You have built a life that mostly keeps it at a distance. And you tell yourself it is behind you. And you tell yourself you've done the work. And you tell yourself that the fact that you can function at this level proves that you handled it. But tonight, I want to sit across from that person and say quietly that below is still there. It didn't go anywhere. And it is not your enemy. It is the door. The specific, particular only belongs to you door. The door of the version of yourself that is waiting on the other side for the full descent. And the full descent would not destroy you. It would be the end of the version of you that was being held together by the effort of avoiding it. The version would not survive, which is good. That version was expensive. That version was costing you energy every single day. Energy belongs to the miracle. The greatest lie ever told was that your power lives somewhere other than where you are right now. The power is the specific texture of your actual human existence, not the curated version, not the performing version, the actual one. Your grief is not a liability, it is data. Your 3 a.m. is not your failure, it is a sacred ground. The reoccurring pattern is not the evidence that you are broken, it is the message from the below that has not yet been fully received. The below is where the miracle gets performed, not after you fix it, not after you earn the ascent, not after you become the version of yourself who has left it all behind. Now, here, at this moment, sit in it, get through it, be in it, go through it. That is the rebirth, not the destination. The going through. I am the Final Boss. This has been the Final Boss Podcast, Season 4, The Rebirth, Episode 220. This is solo edition on a special guest Thursday. My guest chair was empty tonight, and the empty chair said everything it needed to say. Go perform your miracles, and I'll see you this Sunday for Sitting Down Sundays. Have a great one. But before you go, because that's our show, but before you go, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, right? To each and every single one of you. Like, share, and subscribe, right? Like, share, and subscribe. Remember, there is a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but there is an even heavier pain that comes with regret, right? I am here. We are here. And as always, remember, be balanced, be equal, be smart. That is our show. Thank you for tuning in. And I'll see you again on Sunday for Sitting Down Sundays. Y'all have a great one. Glad to be here. Talk to you soon.